Welcome, welcome, welcome! Day one of our Shameless self-care challenge. I am so excited to be sharing with all of you. I feel like this is a topic that is important like 365 days a year, all the time, 24/7, and yet it is incredibly important at this time. It seems that there's something in the collective energy that right around Halloween and then leading into November, it just gets worse. There's like this shift towards, I don't even know, like debauchery and excess and ignoring our needs and our routines and all of these things. It's as if time speeds up and we all just kind of ignore the things that matter most. So I felt very called at this time to share this and to gather us all together and use this as a little sacred container for rededicating and recommitting to ourselves and really setting a solid foundation to bring us into 2019. Because if you can make these mindsets and rededicate and recommit to yourself in an environment that is a little more chaotic, then you're good. You can do it anytime, all the time. So use this time, if you're feeling challenged, if you're feeling extra stress, use this as a little laboratory, if you will, to really see what comes up for you, see the triggers of the holiday season, and to use them to your advantage, to use them as learnings. My intention for these 5 days for you is to create your own self-care menu, to come into right relationship with what self-care means to you, and to really understand what it is that you need authentically. Not to regurgitate something that somebody has taught you, not to be on top of the latest self-care trend, not to use self-care as self-punishment, which many of us do. It's very easy to do. It's almost kind of undetectable. Not to use self-care as something to just add to your to-do list that actually stresses you out more, because that defeats the purpose. And to not just share things for you to do because some lady on Facebook was like, oh, this is a cool self-care practice to do. That's not my intention. So if you're looking for any of those things, you probably don't want to be here. If you are looking for support and guidance in a loving community as you unravel some of these blocks towards caring for yourself and come into alignment and, like I said, right relationship with self-care and what it really authentically means to you and what you really need from it, and get some cool practices along the way, you're in the right place. So keep watching, keep participating. This will work like this, okay? So every day I will come on live, me and my scarves, because I am, fun fact about Devon, kind of obsessed. So maybe I'll just show off my scarves all week. No, I will come on live every day. Hey Janelle, thank you for being here, baby. I'll come on live every single day, Monday through Friday this week, and I will share a little lesson. I have some things planned for us, and I will also, sorry, my phone just gave me a little notification. I forgot that I'd set a social media limit, and now it's probably might cut me off. That new screen limit thing where it tells you what you're doing. Anyway, not important. I will share a little lesson. Each day has a theme. I will also share journal prompts and a specific practice. Those that participate fully, so that means sharing some type of reflection or insight or a photo of you doing the practice, something from your journal, something like that. Those who participate fully in all 5 days get to enter into a chance to to win, brain's not working, to win my new Yoni Exploratory. So, and maybe some other cool shit along the way, because that's just how I roll. So it's really fun, really simple. Like I said, we're here to rededicate, here to create our own aligned, right relationship, authentic self-care practices, not put pressure on ourselves, not, follow the latest trends, not regurgitate something, just make our own. All right. So day one, without further ado, This is all about your shameless self-care why. So what do you actually need? What do you actually want? Not comparing your self-care practices to anybody else's. Not like, oh, I only did yoga for 10 minutes today and I heard that you should do like an hour. No, none of that bullshit. What do you actually need? Tuning out the rest of the world, putting blinders on, putting earmuffs on. Really let yourself feel into what do you actually need? What does self-care mean to you? What are you looking for from it? I've got a lot of clients who love meditation. I've got a lot of clients who don't and think it's something they should do. So they force themselves to do it. And I'm like, why are you doing this? Well, I read it's really good for brain health. That's not really going to get you to do something if there's no personal connection. If you love meditation because enter whatever your authentic thing is to you, you're going to do it. So just on a broad scale, what does self-care mean to you? What do you need from self-care? Get really clear on that. There are some journal prompts up above. Today's practice, a little practice to share with you, is Yoni Mudra. And if you have never done mudras, my dad makes fun of me. He's like, you look like you're doing gang signs. Mudras can be thought of yoga for the hands. So there are different ways of doing stuff with our hands. Yoni Mudra is done like this. So hands come together. The last 3 fingers come together like so. Index and thumb come together. All right, Yoni Mudra. And it looks like a yoni, right? Little opening. You take this and sitting comfortably, however is comfortable to you, in a chair, on the floor, and holding down by your womb space. And feeling the tips of all fingers touching and breathing deeply and relaxing. This allows you to receive that insight and that guidance and that clarity, and allows you to be open and more flexible, to connect to the energy of yoni, which is so much more than just a physical location on our body. I've been talking about this for like the last many weeks, so just scroll through any of the posts and you'll get all things yoni. So that's it. That's day 1. Super simple. I think we can all commit to that. What do you authentically need? And what is your shameless why? And what's working, what's not working. And the shameless piece is important, and I'm going to share some resources about that in the comments when I get off of here. When it comes to women, and especially empathic, highly sensitive, healer type women, we carry a lot of things that aren't ours, specifically shame. And shame has many, many faces. It's not, you know, just the way we tend to think of shame, where it's like how do I even explain this? People get like shame and guilt and embarrassment confused. They're all basically iterations of each other. Shame is like that overarching queen of all of them, and they're sort of the offshoots, if you will. So we are all carrying this legacy of feminine shame, and that can be a huge barrier and block to any type of self-care. So again, we have this idea of ourselves in our head and what we are really striving towards, and then we will all right, technical difficulty resolved. I hope that you come back and join me. It was a lovely frozen face I was in. So the first part of today, I talked about the challenge. I gave you the practice and prompts for today. This was the second part where I was going into shame and shamelessness and living shamelessly, and the importance of shame and unraveling it and identifying it, because it is the main block for self-love, which ultimately leads to self-care. We can't care for something that we don't truly love and accept and understand. And the block for that love and acceptance and understanding is shame. And as I was starting to say before my little technical glitch, women especially, and especially us more highly sensitive and empathic, introverted, intuitive, all these other ways, labels, healer types are especially susceptible to shame. We internalize and carry so much of what is not ours. And on top of that, we also internalize things because we see everything, we sense and perceive everything, and want to fix or heal or support. So especially from a young age, we will internalize the wrongdoings of others or their misfortune or unhappiness or anything else, and make it something about us, make it some type of story about us. And especially as children, and if we come from backgrounds of dysfunction, especially if we grew up in dysfunctional homes. Hey, Claire! Mwah! Thank you for being here, baby. If we come from dysfunctional homes, it is just guaranteed, even more so, that we're walking around with this baggage of shame. Because when we're little, we have, caretakers who, I'll just use my example. In my childhood, I had an alcoholic and a drug addict's mother. So not understanding what's going on. When you're little, you've got two options, basically, right? One is that your parents and caretakers are incompetent, which is like the most frightening thing in the world. And we don't really even have the capacity to have that really be an option. Maybe when we're a little bit older, we do. But when we're really, really little, that's not even on the table. So then, of course, it's about us. It's something that we have done wrong. And that way of thinking on a very subtle level exists throughout our lives. And the more sensitive we are, the more that we perceive and observe and pick up on things from others, the more that it kind of will internalize in us and make it a story about ourselves. And that's kind of the breeding ground for shame. And this shame, and I have so much, this is a topic I am so passionate about. So if you're passionate or curious, I really invite you to go check out my blog and my podcast, because there's tons of resources there, and I'll drop the links to each in the comments when I'm done with this. But that shame piece is really, and guilt, exactly, another iteration of shame. And these shame pieces are what block us from truly loving ourselves, which, like I said, blocks the care. You're not going to care about something in a very authentic, fluid manner that you don't really love and accept. And I might even go so far as to say trust. When there's shame, there is also a lack of self-trust because there's something wrong with you, right? You're inherently flawed. So why should you trust yourself? Why are you trustworthy? If there's something wrong with you, you're not trustworthy, right? So all of that to say that practicing shameless self-care is to really come into right relationship with the shame that you're carrying, right? And it can be painful and ugly, and we don't want to look at it, but to look at it, to come into right relationship with it, accept that it's there, and to move forward in a more nourishing way, a way that is whole, that integrates all of these pieces of yourself. Because when we're shunning and resisting it, and that internal conflict is there, that's sucking a lot of our energy. And then we wonder why our physical body and our health is suffering, and we wonder why we don't want to show up for ourselves, we're not enthusiastic about caring for ourselves, or why we will start for a while, right? We'll go through those start-stop periods, I used to call them, where we are, for a month, like really in our eating game, and we're moving our body and everything's going great, and we're meditating, and then something will happen and we're like, fuck that. And it like goes to hell again and we're not doing it. So coming to that place of deep love makes it consistent because it's fluid. And that is really, in my opinion, what self-care is all about. Shameless self-care is about truly loving and accepting all of us, all the parts, all the pieces, not thinking that there's something that is wrong or needs to be fixed or beaten into submission. That's how I used to relate to myself, right? Like, I'll just beat it into submission and make it work for me. No, that's not loving at all, and it's not consistent. So I might add to today, as you are going through the practice for today that I shared in the first video, and I'm so sorry this is now 2 videos. That won't happen for the rest of our challenge this week. But I shared the prompts for today. I might also add just kind of looking at what your habits are. So are you self-sabotaging in some capacity? What does that look like? Are you procrastinating? Are you setting your standards too high? Like, your expectations. Like, are you, okay, I'm gonna do yoga because I heard it's good, so I'm gonna do it for like 2 hours every morning. It's like, well, maybe for some people that's realistic, but is what you're setting realistic for you? And what is it that you authentically need and want? So looking at why you are wanting these things and what you're doing. And again, like I said in the first video, if you're just looking for some lady to be like, hey, try this cool stuff, it's self-care, yay! Like this, I'm not your girl. If you want to understand finally the patterns that you are embodying that are preventing you from treating yourself in the way that you truly deserve, then yeah, this week's going to be for you. So shameless self-care, because it's time for us all to rise up out of that shame story that is so disempowering and not ours to carry, And it's a legacy. Our mothers carried it, their mothers, and we have the really beautiful opportunity and invitation right now, in this body, in this lifetime, and now, to just say, F that, it stops with me, and I'm gonna unravel this legacy of bullshit and come into right relationship with myself and my needs. And just love myself. Yeah. So Claire, you're sharing. It's taken me years to self-trust. Battling with dysmorphia is one of the symptoms. I'm certain the downward spiral. Time is to stop this. The shame. I feel this wall. I know I still have time to find a way to love me. Yeah, body dysmorphia is definitely, it's a real thing. I've been there before. Yeah. And it is, I hear that you recognize that it is a symptom of shame. Totally. A lot of the ways that these things show up, and this was another thing I've talked about on my podcast and my blog too, is these little addictive habits, you know, and addiction we will often think of as like drugs or alcohol, and that's not the only way that addiction can show up. Addiction can be to self-sabotage in some way. Like something's going really well and then you want to screw it up somehow. There can be an addiction to sabotaging. There could be an addiction to Facebook, to shopping, anything that is bypassing the pain of whatever shame you're carrying, because shame is a freeze state, and it's so painful and so insidious. It just creeps into everything. It's like a water, like a leak, right? Water just will go in and get into everything. I actually had that happen over the weekend. So Devon's getting new carpet in her bedroom for Christmas, apparently. Anyways, but yeah, all of these things are really not problems and not things to fix per se. They are symptoms of the underlying thing. So for an example of practicing self-care, it's not like there's something wrong with you because you can't commit to, 10 minutes a day of whatever it is, deep belly breathing. Like, oh, what's wrong with me? I just can't sit down and do it. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe that's not your cup of tea, and that's fine. Maybe you need to find something else that works for you. Or perhaps there is something inside this shame story is so loud that it's blocking you from receiving the goodness, the good medicine of that 10 minutes. There's that, right? That inability to receive. So again, just these various ways and these symptoms of shame. Thank you, Claire, for naming that and using that language. And just realize that writing this and I still haven't got to self-trust. Yeah. And I may also just add and invite you to think about, and anyone else who's watching this, that it's not something to achieve or to get, right? Like I'm gonna get to self-love. Like it's some type of finish line. It's a daily practice. It's a daily dedication. And it can be harder some days than others. And it's an art to continue to show up, the art of consistency, the art of showing up. That to me is the highest form of all of these, you know, and all these different names. And I don't want to get too bogged down in the like, this is self-care and this is self-love and this is self-trust and this is self-responsibility and blah, 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 blah. Like, no. It's really just a way of, it's a way of living, ultimately. It's a way of speaking to yourself and caring for yourself and walking through life in your body. It's a way of relating to life in a more fluid way without all the compartmentalizing and that linear way of thinking where we're like, well, this is the self-trust and this is self-discipline and this is self-responsibility. Like that's I love the term mental masturbation. That's just that mental masturbation going where it's like, oh, this fun. I'm addicted to labeling things and fixing myself. And Claire, I'm totally not saying that's what you're doing. You just triggered that thought. And so now I'm going down that rabbit hole, just to clarify. I'm not accusing you of doing these things. But yeah, it's really just a way of being in that fluid, watery space of relating to ourselves and to life, where we just meet it with a steady grace of whatever shows up, however we feel in each day or in each moment, and being okay with that. Being okay with it and being okay with whatever is needed, whatever need shows up in that time. Hey, Alicia, my need is alone time. Just quiet, still alone time. Shame pops up and says you're supposed to do it all and take care of everyone, not sit and relax. That is such a common story. Anyone else watching have that one? I know that's a big one for me. That's definitely one that I battle lovingly, of course, and with acceptance. Some days more than others, but that is definitely a story that I have, and that's like the perfect example, Alicia, of this feminine shame piece that I'm always talking about because I'm so passionate about, and that's like the perfect little real life example. Just, you're supposed to do it all and take care of everyone, not just sit and relax. And I think that most of us don't realize that sitting and relaxing is also taking care of everyone. And doing things that we love, pursuing our passions, pursuing that which really just lights you up. And we know those things. We do. A lot of us say we don't, and that's probably just another layer of shame because it's not okay for us to like the things we like or to want to follow those threads because that makes us weird, or it makes us, I don't know, those things are a waste of time, right? We can't be spending our time doing that, or, oh, you can't make money doing that. But that's actually not true. Whatever nourishes us nourishes others by default. It's like a universal law. Whatever is kind to you is kind to others. And Christy, missed the beginning of this, but so happy to find this. Hey, Christy, I'm glad you found this too. And as I said, the first video, it was short and sweet from today. That's the one to go really catch up on. I had a technical glitch that cut me off, so this will be the only day where there are like two, multiple videos to catch up on. This was me just kind of elaborating on some of that shame piece. If there are any other questions or insights or experiences with shame and how shame shows up, I would love to hear it. I am going to be extremely available this week, so please share your daily reflections if you're participating, and would love a chance to win my new Yoni Exploratory course. Like I said, those that participate fully in this will be entered into a drawing. I'll do that live at the end of this. But also just anything else that comes up at all, please take advantage of this space always, and especially this week. And I look forward to just seeing what everybody shares and what comes up. And like I said, watch that first video. It was short and sweet. I think it's just 5 minutes for how this week will run down and today's practice. And prompts. All right, my loves. I will see you tomorrow. Take care.